Hello, my name is Elijah Frank, and welcome to my presentation on an instance of imperial benefaction on the Arch of Constantine. I chose this arch because of its significance not only to Emperor Constantine, but also the significant importance it has to the Battle of Milvion Bridge in 312 CE, which is also plays a huge important role to me personally, as that is what got me into a lot of Roman history growing up. In the background, we can see a picture that was done in 1690 depicting the Arch of Constantine. As you can note, already by 1690, there was a lot of unfinished works and pieces missing, like the heads atop near the inscriptions. We are going to cover the Arch of Constantine, some of its construction, location, and discuss the patronage by the Senate. We're going to dive into the dilemma, trying to uncover when it was really built and for who. We will discuss the purpose of this benefaction, also discussing the Battle of Milvion Bridge and the messaging behind this arch. Then we'll have a quick conclusion, and then we'll have references. The Arch of Constantine was dedicated by the Senate in 315 CE to Emperor Constantine on his decennia, or his 10th anniversary as Emperor of Rome in the West. It is constructed mainly of brick covered in marble fascia all around the outside, reusing previous works as well, which we'll get into here in a second. It stands in a very high traffic route in between the Flavian Amphitheater, or the Colosseum, and Palatine Hill on a common triumph path through the city of Rome. The dilemma: when was it really built and for who? To understand why some of the dilemma has been brought up, there are two main things to take note of: the grand inscription on the attic, as well as the Battle for Milvion Bridge frieze that is up top. There's been argument because of some of these things on when it was built and for who. To understand and to find out who built this, we need to understand the use of spolia, the reuse of previous era marble carvings since the Tetrarch times. Right, this is very common to reuse stuff in newer works. Some professor in 1924 or 1912, I'm sorry, named Frothingham argued that this arch was actually built for Emperor Domitian. However, he was considered a very bad tyrant, and after his murder, they destroyed a lot of the stuff that was built to him and for him and rededicated it all to later emperors. Other scholars, however, in 1924 and 1975, agree that it was actually built for Constantine between 312 and 315 CE. Author Ross Holloway, in his book, brings together some research that was done in the 1990s, that was done through some excavation, and brings up two possible arguments. One is that it was a Hadrianic arch, and that it was just repurposed. This is because of the foundation excavations that they found in the Hadrianic tondos. He also argued that it could be the Arch of Maxentius, the co-emperor of Constantine at the time, and that it was repurposed after he lost in the defeat. However, It is generally accepted that from 312 to 315 CE was when this was actually built, and that the use of the spoiler or previously using stuff to continue works is just in keeping with tradition that is seen through imperial benefaction throughout the empire. They also did this to help link Constantine to good emperors. Normally, they didn't do triumphs for civil wars. However, they wanted to do something to bring together Constantine with the previous emperors of the past of great. And author Holloway also argues that during this time, the artists of the time were just inept and barbaric. There was a decline in the arts. They were no longer producing solid works, and as evidence as they didn't finish much of the stuff before it was put up and never went back to do it. The Battle for Milvion Bridge in 312 CE. This was a significant battle fought between co-emperors Maxentinius and Constantine for ownership or sole emperorship of the Western Empire. There are two conflicting accounts, one being that in 310 CE he saw a solar halo and attributed this to Apollo, and during the buildup consulted with Christian advisors and switched over the vision to the Christian God and attributed it to them. However, Christian historian Eusebius records that he actually saw the Cairo, which was a Christian sign at the time, in the sky and heard conquer by this or by this conquer, and it was actually an attribution to the Christian God, telling him to conquer, and by that sign he will win. The relief of the battle was added to the arch along with the inscription to finish the attic by 315 CE. The reason that it was so important, it was a big thing linking not only his battle over tyranny, but linking to the divine, as well as helping them cover a big portion of the arch in a short amount of time. The Senate built and dedicated its arch to Constantine to mark his 10-year anniversary as solo emperor of the West. They also wanted to reframe Constantine's victory as a liberation for the Roman people, a victory over tyranny over the co-emperor Maxentinius. And they also started linking the emperor and the politics of Rome slowly to the divine with the inspiration of divinity and incorporating this in the inscriptions. This messaging is really seen throughout the arch. You can definitely see the themes of liberation and stability for the people of Rome. In the Liberatus relief, you can see Constantine in act of congerium, giving the people his imperial bounty, showing that stability and prosperity are now to be found within the empire. It's reframing his Civil War military victory into prosperous times for the empire. Again, linking him to previous good emperors, trying to correlate him as quote unquote good and as a savior, quote unquote. Even with the academic dilemma and discourse possibly attributing this arch to previous emperors, this arch is a calculated and precise case of imperial benefaction by the Senate to commemorate Constantine and his victory over tyranny, to start linking the empire to the divine, conquering tyrants. This is definitely seen through the reuse of the spolia, which is a common occurrence throughout the empire. It can also be seen as a thank you to the public for staying with them and staying loyal with him throughout the Civil War, promoting and promising stable and prosperous Rome under his rule. Thank you very much for sitting through my presentation. These are my references.